Boa noite a todos. Eu sou a professora Evanilde Maria Martins, diretora da PUC Carreiras. É com muito prazer que estamos aqui recebendo a todos vocês para ouvir o nosso convidado de hoje, o professor Dr. Ruppy Sawhney, da Universidade do Tennessee, para falar sobre um tema muito importante, liderança compassiva em um contexto global, que tem relação com o mundo do trabalho, os processos produtivos e nós, trabalhadores. Neste mês de maio, em que comemoramos o Dia do Trabalhador. A PUC Carreiras é o setor da universidade que atende hoje a mais de 40 mil alunos da graduação e cerca de 17 mil egressos. Nosso foco está no desenvolvimento da carreira e na empregabilidade. E para fazer isso, além de ofertar as vagas de estágio e emprego, nós buscamos, nós temos dedicado a buscar parcerias com empresas e instituições que possam nos auxiliar a construir um processo de formação profissional com excelência, no sentido da qualificação da formação, do aprimoramento dos conhecimentos e do fortalecimento dos vínculos institucionais entre PUC Minas e Universidade do Tennessee, é que recebemos hoje o professor Dr. Rupy Sawhney. Já temos um convênio firmado com essa universidade e gostaríamos de ampliar as possibilidades de parceria, quem sabe a partir deste nosso primeiro encontro. Gostaria de registrar e agradecer as presenças da professora doutora Maria Inês Martins, nossa pró-reitora de graduação da PUC Minas, e da doutora Gretchen Nessler, pró-reitora de Assuntos Internacionais e diretora do Centro para Engajamento Internacional da Universidade do Tennessee. Agradeço a todos os professores e alunos aqui presentes, aos membros da direção da PUC Minas, os diretores de instituto e faculdades, diretores acadêmicos, coordenadores de curso, que sempre nos apoiam nas nossas atividades. Obrigada pela parceria de sempre. Quero agradecer também à professora Vanessa Veloso, ex-aluna da PUC Minas, e o doutorando Guilherme Zucoloto, da Universidade do Tennessee, e a professora Raquel Furtado, minha assessora, pelo trabalho conjunto para que este evento fosse possível. Não devo esquecer de agradecer de coração a todo o corpo técnico, administrativo, que tanto se empenhou para que a gente pudesse fazer esse evento com qualidade. Neste momento, gostaria de passar a palavra para a nossa pró-reitora, professora Maria Inês, e em seguida para a doutora Gretchen Nessler, para fazerem a abertura. Maria Inês, por favor.
Boa noite. Gostaria de agradecer a presença de todos os alunos, professores e demais convidados. É com muita alegria que recebemos nesse auditório virtual da PUC Minas o professor Dr. Rupy Sawhney e toda a equipe da Universidade do Tennessee. Sejam todos muito bem-vindos. Como temos reiterado, a formação do aluno não se dá somente na sala de aula, mas também em espaços extra-classe, na extensão, na pesquisa, nos estágios, no trabalho, ou por meio de cursos e palestras, como a que teremos a oportunidade de assistir agora. Liderança compassiva é um tema importante que nos encanta por estar alinhado com os valores da nossa universidade, que defende e pratica uma formação humanista e humanizadora. Nesses tempos tão difíceis que estamos vivendo, é ainda mais relevante abrir espaço para a discussão de abordagens que incluam o homem no centro do processo de trabalho. Além disso, essa conferência integra os nossos esforços no sentido de internacionalizar cada vez mais a nossa universidade. Alunos, professores e convidados aqui presentes Desejo que aproveitem a palestra e que sempre participem dos eventos da PUC Carreiras. Muito obrigada.
Obrigada, Inês. Eu convido agora a doutora Gretchen Nasler, por favor. Gretchen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. It's a pleasure to be here and be invited to this event. I just wanted to say a few words about how very important the establishment of global partnerships is, both for our institutions, but also in general, and to share with you a little bit about the value and the importance that goes along with the establishment of those partnerships and why we think that this is the best way for us to begin a relationship with each other. If we're not able to be fully authentic with each other and to be able to share what's important and then work together to find solutions, then really all of us are holding partnerships for no purpose and no meaningful value at all. And so therefore it's events like this that bring institutions together and allow us to come together and share our ideas, be with one another, and come to a deeper understanding of what we're passionate about and what's so very important to us. It's truthfully what makes leadership the most important piece of our work. So I'm pleased to be able to welcome all of you. I believe that this is the start of a wonderful partnership between our two institutions. I also hold great hope that this event will then lead us down a pathway to be able to identify new collaboration, things that are innovative and entrepreneurial, and things that higher education in both of our countries need as we move into this reimagined point in time after we go post-pandemic and begin to think about what our lives and internationalization and globalization looks like together. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your interest in working with the University of Tennessee. It means a great deal to us for this partnership to be taking hold. It's been a little while in the making, and now we're glad to see the fruits of the labor of a few, and so thrilled to be able to expand this across our institutions. So I look very much forward to future conversations and listening to the rest of the event this evening. Thank you.
Obrigada, Gretchen. Thank you very much. Antes de apresentar o professor Ruppy, gostaria de lembrar a todos aqueles que estão assistindo a palestra na sala do Zoom que podem enviar as perguntas clicando no Q&A, no rodapé da tela. As perguntas podem ser enviadas tanto em inglês como em português. Esta palestra será realizada em inglês. Para ouvir a tradução em português, basta clicar no globinho na parte de baixo da tela e vocês escolherem o idioma português. Se você quiser ouvir a palestra no original, não precisa fazer nada. Para quem está assistindo no YouTube, vocês também podem fazer perguntas no chat, tanto em inglês como em português, e ao final elas serão repassadas para o professor Dr. Ruppy. Vamos então apresentar nosso palestrante, finalmente. O professor Dr. Rupy Sawhney leciona no Departamento de Engenharia Industrial e de Sistemas da Universidade do Tennessee. Ele desenvolve trabalhos de pesquisa interdisciplinares em energia com a sua universidade e o Laboratório de Segurança Nacional em PUC Carreiras, Tennessee. É o fundador da empresa Sawhney Solutions e diretor executivo do Centro de Pesquisa e Educação em Sistemas Avançados, onde lidera uma equipe de cerca de 30 funcionários e alunos de pós-graduação. O professor Dr. Rupy Sawhney desenvolveu uma metodologia própria denominada Modelo Sawhney, que reúne estratégias de excelência operacional centradas no fator humano da produção. Este modelo é a base de projetos transformadores e inovadores e de programas de treinamentos para indústrias e órgãos públicos. Sua equipe já fez parcerias com mais de 200 empresas em projetos de excelência operacional e desenvolveu também colaborações internacionais com cerca de 20 universidades em todo o mundo. O professor Rupy Sawhney já foi reconhecido com vários prêmios. Em 2020, recebeu o Prêmio de Excelência Global John L. Enhoff para Educação em Engenharia Industrial, dado pela Sociedade Americana de Educação em Engenharia. É com muito prazer que eu passo a palavra para o nosso convidado, professor Dr. Rupy Sawhney. Por favor.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I'm hoping that everybody is having a good afternoon and a good evening. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and start my presentation. Hear me if you can. The presentation is about leadership. And leadership is defined by this concept that says, if I know what I know, I can articulate it, and I can mentor others in the process. That is the definition of leadership. So knowing what you do, being able to understand what it is that you do and model it, and then to be able to take people through the process. This is not my definition. This is a definition that came to me when I was working with Boeing. This was the leadership model and the leadership definition at Boeing. So do you know what do you have the ability to model it? And then can you mentor others in it? And in here, we're going to be talking about leaders that are both compassionate and are global. And this presentation was for engineers, but it applies to almost everybody. So it is not necessarily an engineering concept. Go ahead. From our perspective, every human being, including engineers, have the ability to really basic sets of things that they need to work on. One is the productivity of their region, themselves, their regions, their countries, and so forth. And the other part that you have to work on is everything that you do has an impact on societal health. So everything that you do has an impact on societal health. So if I'm looking at this paradigm for engineers, and it is for architects, and it is for accountants, and it's for everybody, you have to look at what it is that you're doing and relate that to this idea of societal health. And I want to take you through, at least in terms of productivity and societal health, where we are. Go ahead. Our history has not been great. Our history has said that things that we have built and done in terms of productivity have not sustained. So we do a lot of stuff, we do make a lot of changes, but many of those changes don't sustain. So it may be a month, it may be 6 months, it may be 2 years or 3 years, but eventually what people do is they go back to what they used to know, but they do not accept the change that has occurred. And here you have to ask the question, why? Why would a group of people decide that a change is not good for them and decide to go back to what they used to do? So our history in productivity is not stellar. Go on. Our history, at least from an engineering perspective, how we design system, it is not how we design medical systems that help people. It is not about the science development that we're talking about, but it is the design of systems where people work. And in that, we have focused in on this idea of that development, but we have really, in essence, in those development and those systems where people work, we've really not enhanced their life. In fact, in the United States, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the greatest source of the productivity in the United States has been based on more work and greater stress on the workforce. That's not what we're saying. That is what the US Bureau of Labor Statistics is saying, is that by placing greater work and greater stress on individuals, we can create productivity. If we want, the second is automation, and the third is how we improve our systems. And if we send people to school to do automation and to do continuous improvement, why is it that that is not the number one or number two thing, but the fact that we're getting people to work more is there? Now, is it possible that these two things that I mentioned to you are related to each other? Because if I design a system in which people work, all right, and that creates greater stress on individuals, would you accept it if it were you? So there may be a relationship between those two. Go on. I've always thought they talk about, statistics and the fact that whose fault is this? And again, I can tell you that at least in the United States, and I would assume that it is similar in other countries, if not worse, is that 17% of our population in East Tennessee is opioid dependent. If you look at people that have alcohol dependency, if they look at drug dependencies, if you look at other issues such as mental issues such as depression and so forth, there is a fair amount of our population that is not fully functional in our economy. And the question is, do countries sustain over a long period of time in which over time, longer and more and more and more people, and the percentage of people increases that are opioid dependent or drug dependent or alcohol dependent or have other issues, and they are not productive? So I looked at, because there are a lot of technical ways but which we can say that these are the issues. But my question has been, are we the problem? So the answer to this is, and again, when I talk about us, it is me as well as everybody that's listening. So we look at this and we say, we make decisions based on our experiences and what we are taught. So let's look at how we were raised. Go on, Gary. So the way we brought up, who brings us up, in what society we are brought up, these experiences make up how we make decisions. So in the picture that you see, we look at a Western country, and I think the top is India, and this is how people go to school. And if I said that in the United States, it is acceptable for people to go to school, as you see in the top picture, you would say, well, that's not acceptable. So every culture has a slightly different experience when they're brought up. So family, the place you are born, the society in which you're born on, has a tremendous impact on you. Go on. Then we talk about you go through that process and you go to school. And school reinforces or negates those experiences, says, well, that was right or that was not right. What if you went to the school in the same society? And therefore, instead of saying, well, that's the wrong way to think, or that there's another opportunity to do something, what if they reinforced it and they said, well, it is. So on the top, you see a university that is I believe, in Africa. And then you see the one in the bottom, I think, is in the United States. So what you're taught reinforces what your families brought you up with. Go on. And then you go to work and you take those things that you are taught, all right, and you start designing those things. And those are the values that you use in addition to your accountancy, in addition to your engineering backgrounds, in addition to your business backgrounds and so forth. And those are the values that you use. So my question has always been, what percentage of decisions are made based on who I am, and what percentage of it is based on technical skills? And my thought is that a lot of decisions that we make are on our value systems, and little less than that is based on what we have learned from books. And when we go to work, we are there at work and they reinforce whatever we've learned. So the question is, what have we learned? Go on, Gary. I'm going to present to you two things. You have to click one more time. Okay. I'm going to present to you a test for you. And the test is how you have been brought up, how you have been educated at a university, and how you go and work at a company. I want to have a test that says your paradigm is that productivity is based on employee well-being, or productivity is based on the amount of work, employee effort that you put in. When we present this to everybody in the United States and around the world, I would say that maybe 85, 90, 95% of the people say their paradigm of thinking is number two. Number two is, the more I get somebody to work, the more productive I am. The more I get somebody to work, the more productive I am. That's how my family raised me. That is what the university taught me. That is what my work did. And therefore, that's the paradigm by which I am going to make decisions. All right. The question is, if that is the way I make decisions, that must mean, go on to the next, that when you see these pictures, there are two things that come across. In each one, this is a work environment in two different cultures. And in the first one, really nobody's working and everybody's sitting around. And in the other one, there's one or two people working, and there's about 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 people that are watching. If you were a supervisor looking at this, what would be your first impulse? What is the first impulse that you have? The first impulse may be, because of the way you are raised, be this idea that, my God, if we're paying for these individuals, why are they not continuously at work? Continuously at work. And the second is, in my opinion now, and it depends on where you sit, you may look at slide on the left and you may look at the slide on the right, and you may treat them somewhat different because of the cultural difference or the cultural bias. So I then start seeing that the way I think, if that's the paradigm that I have, it influences the way I think unconsciously, not maliciously, but unconsciously. And therefore, there must be consequences to this. What? So, what are the consequences? So, if many of us believe that a human being, we always say, no matter where we are, that a human being is the most important, notice the word, asset of a institution. Asset of an institution, not a person of an institution, an asset of an institution. And then based on this idea that it is an asset, we want to have 100% utilization, just like a machine that we want it to be running 100% of the time. I want that human being to be as high a utilization as possible, as high a utilization. So in my opinion, when I asked you, are you then treating that individual, and are you looking at that individual as a human being or as a asset that can be disposed of? That makes a big difference. And therefore, because many of us think that way, all right, we have created a fundamental conflict. A fundamental conflict. And this conflict, go on, is presented here. This is the 737 planes built in Renton, Washington. These are the Boeing planes. This was where, and when I was there, the top picture was how it used to be. I used to have a plane. I moved the plane to a station where the people were, and I had two stations. If you can see, there is a line on the right and a line on the left are airplanes. The bottom of the picture are the fuselages, and I moved these fuselages to each of the station. And I can't remember the number, but the number was something like, you know, we can get one plane out every 48 hours. And they said, no, we need more productivity, and therefore what we want to do is to build a new line. And so the concept at Boeing was something called a moving line. So on the bottom, when you see it, these planes are now in one line, and they are moving just like an assembly line. They're moving, and people jump on these airplanes, and you have a certain period of time to be able to finish it. And we reduce the time to 24 hours. I can build an airplane in 24 hours. Every 24 hours, there will be a plane that leaves. So I have doubled my productivity. And my God, wow, what an accomplishment. But the idea here is, what about the people? No, don't bring that yet. The people here they are producing to a beat. The plane moves so fast, so therefore I am going to move. The work is routine. Sometimes the work is repetitive and boring. If I wanted to leave and go and get a cup of coffee, I cannot. If I wanted to leave and go to the restroom, I may or may not be able to do it. So there are characterizations of the plane in which we produce, excellent. But then there are the characterization of the people that work in that system. And therefore, if you look at those characteristics, go on to the next one. I can't remember, this was maybe Ben-Hur, I think, or I don't know which movie it was. All right, but these were slaves that were captured. And therefore, their whole purpose were these were the slaves that were put on these boats, and they rowed the boat to wherever they needed to go. I look at the characteristics of the people, and I ask, do they produce to a beat? The answer is yes. They all row at a particular beat. The higher the beat, the faster the boat. Is there work? Repetitive? Yes. Is it boring? Yes. Can they leave and get a cup of coffee? Say, I think I'm tired, I'm going to go get the coffee. The answer is no. Can I go to the restroom? Maybe, maybe not. So we have, from an operational perspective, built a monument that is amazing. But from a people perspective, these slaves rowing the boat, in essence, have a lot of the characteristics of the people that are working in our environments. And why? Why? Because we are fundamentally brought up to think that the harder that we work, the better off we're going to be. And that's the paradigm that guides our decisions. And therefore, go ahead. We have a fundamental conflict. What is that fundamental conflict? The fundamental conflict is we want, on the black side right here on the left, the planes coming out. It looks magnificent. It is modern. It is not something that we have never seen, and therefore we produce these things. They are constantly running. There's no variation. It is moving. It is moving. It's moving all. We create that concept. On the right-hand side in the white is what people want. So we have an operational system and we have a people system. And one weekend we were looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we applied it to work environments. And I realized, whether right or wrong, that people work initially for a paycheck and job security. That's number one. Once they achieve that, they want to work for safety. This is physical safety. This is emotional safety. This is social safety. This is all kind of safety. And safety in this case means that no matter who I am that goes into work, I want to be treated safely and with dignity. Weight should not matter. Gender should not matter. Ethnicity should not matter. Religion should not matter. But I want to be treated right. After you do that, we say that I want to have a balance of life. Balance of life means I want to work hard, but I want to go home and I want to raise my kids. And once you achieve that, you want this engagement. Well, my work must have a greater meaning than me signing papers. And once you achieve that, you want to have self-actualization, in which it says, I want to be recognized as a leader and I want to be able to impact people. These two systems are in complete conflict. And it is not because of the techniques that are taught. It is simply and fundamentally the way we think and the way we're brought up. So when I look at leadership, leadership should be able to recognize this. And leadership should have the ability to be able to take this concept and offer a solution. This is fundamentally, no matter who you are, where you are a leader if you understand this, you understand and you're aware of this, and then you can go ahead and you say, I offer a solution. Go on. And therefore, we find that this thinking process is really incorrect. When we say the higher the productivity, the more the effort, the higher my productivity, is not quite true. On the bottom axis is the number of hours worked. On the y-axis is the growth or the national growth product of a country. Isn't it amazing that when you take two sets of data and you line them up, look at the line that comes. The countries that have the least amount of effort are the most productive. So as I go from here, from on the x-axis, as I'm going to away, that means that I'm more productive. And yet you see that when I look at the y-axis and I look at the number of hours worked, the number of hours worked for the most productive nations is the lowest number. How is that possible? How is that possible? That everything that we fundamentally grew up believing, but when we fit it to data, the data tells you that you think incorrectly. Go on. And therefore, this impacts a lot of stuff. If you look at the percentage of, and now we're looking at the top 10 most productive nations, and you look at the United States has more people working overtime than other of the 10. If you look at work balance, you look at the United States, the higher the number, the worse off you are, all right? And look at the United States in terms of the fact that it does not provide a work balance, does not provide the ability for you to time spent for yourself, the ability to spend time with the family, with your friends, and at work. That's the definition. Go on. And similarly here, the most stressed countries, we look at the United States, and we look at some of the healthiest countries, we look at the United States. You know, these are countries, again, these are from the top 10. But if I ask the question of Brazil, how much is the effort that you have versus the productivity that you have? And if you are causing people to have, I want to utilize them 100% of time, what is the impact, societal impact that you have? Our motivation for our research group is that I do not believe that the United States or any other country has the ability to have 30, 40, 50% of the people not fully participating in the economy and yet continue to be competitive. And the other part is that it is important is majority of these countries that have the least amount of effort, all right, and are the most productive, guess where they are? Generally located. Northern Europe or Europe. Why? Why only that region? Why not Brazil? Why not Mexico? Why not China? Why not India? Why not others? Why are the people have two different lives? In one of these countries, if you take 6 weeks of vacation, you're actually given a bonus. In another country, there is no such word as overtime. So it must be based on how we have grown up. How we have grown up and what values we carry. Go on. And therefore, can we learn? All right. Go on. I think we can. I think that if we are made aware, we can. Yet, we also must understand that each of you students or faculty or others that are here in the audience, we're kind of different. And I'll explain to you why I think this core value that I talked about, the how we were brought up and what are our core values are important. I looked at famous painters and I said, if the basic tools and skills and material is the same, right? Why is Picasso different than Van Gogh, than Rembrandt? Why? It is not because of the material they use, it is because of the core values of what they believed in. Similarly, again, this is not for engineers, but I would ask all of you, go on. All of you. And again, this is rights engineers, but I'm asking you, if you're a business major or you're an engineering major or you're in social sciences or whatever discipline you are. You must understand and explicitly be aware of your core values. Because unless you have those core values, you're just going to make decisions based on whatever it is that's going to happen. Go on. So for everybody, I don't think this is for engineers, I believe in your field of study, the technical competency. And I've added two things that are important to me that are slowly, one, to design systems based on compassion is something that has happened within my group for the last 15 years or 20 years. But the idea of being a global citizen is a second core value that I hold. And to me, these are core values. I should not believe that there is a difference between an individual in the United Arab Emirates and Mexico. That whatever techniques I have as an engineer, as an accountant, as a business is good for everybody. That it applies to humanity. So these are my core values, and I'll explain to you what we teach. Go on. I want you to see first the impact. Many of you would know something about Industry 1.0 all the way to Industry 5.0. These are fundamental structures that tell us how to design something. I want you to look at the fact that from Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, look at what it says. I'm going to read Industry 5.0 for you. Summarized as the combination of humans and machines in the workplace. The third and fourth revolutions were hard on humans and hard on the environment. Previous generations had to adapt their lifestyles and who they are to the machines that were created. That's our history. And now I want to show you on the next page what this history means. Look at the time frame. The Industrial Revolution occurred, I believe, they gave it some number around 1760. All the way to 2018, from 1760 to 2018, we forgot about humans and we simply designed machines and we designed environments around those machines. I give you an example, and I think all of you would believe in this. We are on summer break. I should be less able to respond to emails and all this kind of stuff. But do you know that I get emails that are automatically generated that when I get up in the morning, that tells me what I need to do. It doesn't make a difference when. I get emails at night, I get emails at 11 o'clock, I get emails on Friday, I get emails on Saturday, I get emails on Sunday. In the name of efficiency, I have now lost the blur between home and work. And I'm okay with it because as you can look, I don't have a dark beard and I don't have dark hair. You, the students, if you follow us, I had it harder than the generation previous to me. You will have it harder than I will. And therefore, I want to show you some principles. Go on. Every leader must recognize this. Jeremy, how much time do I have so I can quicken the pace or slow down?
Professor Raquel, can you give us a time? Well, I'd say 30 minutes, Dr. Sawhney.
Desculpa, Guilherme.
Quanto tempo mais Dr. Sawhney tem? Só para saber o
Yes.
ritmo que
Não,
ele vai.
ele pode ficar à vontade para concluir o pensamento dele sem problema.
All right, so Dr. Sawhney, take your time.
No, I don't want to take everybody's time. Everybody has to go eat dinner. So I'll go through this as quick as I can.
It's been a pleasure, Dr. Sawhney.
So in this system, where this is the problem, we want to create leaders, not somebody that looks at a football match and says, I'm really good at it, therefore I'm a leader. We need people at institutions and at universities and different places to be raised where they're aware of this and then can design systems that align with the well-being of society with the productivity of the society. So every system that we look at when we say principle number 1, align productivity transformation and employee quality of life. That must be fundamentally within your mindset. You cannot achieve a goal without having another goal that says, have my people done better? 2, develop a system-based strategy to positively impact operations and people. So 1, you should be aware of it. 2, you should be able to develop a strategy. Okay. And for those that are interested, I can share this with you because I know that at least around me, it's around 6 o'clock. And Guillermo had told me that I was supposed to speak for about 45 minutes. Go on. To the next slide. This leader must be able to utilize performance measurement systems to develop organizational culture. You grew up in your families with a particular behavior. One person grew up differently, another person grew up differently because those families measured different things. These performance measurement systems is something a leader should understand. All right, go on. We hate the word efficiency. I don't know what efficiency means. I really don't even know what productivity means. Efficiency means how quickly you do it. Productivity is the ratio of the input to the output of a system. But what we want you to think about is the reliability and the resilience of a system. Reliable means what? That I should be able to provide you with whatever you need to be able to do your job. So therefore, I'm designing a system for the success of the people. Majority of us at work are looking for things. Who is there? Can't find him, can't find her. Where's my material? Where's this? Where's that? All this stuff. And I spend a lot of time doing this. And then I get an email saying, well, you're pretty inefficient. Why don't you become more efficient? The concept of designing compassionate systems is designing systems to ensure people's success. And that is done through the design of reliable system. Reliable system, the probability that a system works as intended over a period of time under the environmental conditions that it was built for. Go on. Think about sustainability. The leader must think about sustainability. Whatever you have, if you're looking at a house, if you're looking at a family, if you're looking at friendship, if you're looking at an environment in which you're looking at, you cannot simply say, I want to do something. You have to look at sustainability. How do I sustain something? If I really care, I can sustain a friendship. I don't care, I don't have to. And then this idea of cultural change. Okay. What does cultural change mean to you? And how do you do it? So a leader has basically in my mind, 6 basic skill sets. All the way from saying people are important to me in what I do, to the number 5 and number 6, where we talk about sustainable programs and cultural development based on reliability and performance measurement system and all that. You cannot become a leader if you do not have a core value, and if you do not have core skills that support those core values. And these are what they are. Go on. The next thing in my mind that I think is very important is this idea of global citizenship. I think each of us has the right to be patriotic, no question about that. So you can say whatever country, wherever region you live, you know, that you want to do well by them. And I say, good for you. But I want to ask you the question, as a business major, as a social science major, as an engineer major, as a medical major, whatever major you have, do you believe in the limited focus to only providing your skill sets to only a group of people? Or is what you offer to the global citizenship? If it is the global citizenship, then the first thing that you have to do is to be assured of the kind of biases that you have. What are the biases that you have? Against whom do you have these biases? If you are going to be a global citizen, I am not saying that you do not have the right, but you need to at least be aware of the biases that you have, and do you treat one group of people differently than another group of people? And we talk about global citizenship, so we're talking about countries. But this global citizenship concept applies to more than just the country. It applies to gender. It applies to the amount of weight that you may have. It may apply to the religion that you are. It may apply to the height that you're in. It may have a lot of things, and you must understand your biases before you can become a global citizen. And I always thought about this, and I don't know the answer. If I have a leader that's only a leader for one group of people, is that truly a leader? I don't know the answer. If my country asks me to serve, I will serve. But I also know that as we are developing ideas, it is not only for the people in the United States, it's not only for the people in Brazil, it's not only for the people in Mexico, it's not only for the people in India, it's for everybody that we can share this information with. So here, we're developing at the University of Tennessee this idea of measuring global citizenship. Go on. And so we're looking at, the first thing we look at is this idea of global engineering ethics and humanitarian values. This means that you as a leader must have a concern for people in all parts of the world with a view of moral responsibility to improve life conditions through engineering problem solving. And if you cross engineering out, that's what you have to do. And I'll explain to you this all to you in a minute. I'm going through this as quickly as I can. Go on. 2, global engineering efficacy. As a leader, the belief and engagement to make a difference through engineering problem solving and technology towards achieving greater global good. Cross the word engineering out, and it applies to everybody. Go on. Global engineering centrism. Person's value of what is good for the global community in engineering related efforts compared to what benefits just one's own country or group. Okay. That's the third component of a global citizen. And fourth is global engineering community connectiveness. The leader must be aware of humanity and appreciation, have appreciation for the interrelatedness of all people and nations and the role that engineering can play in improving humanity. The proposal that we have at the University of Tennessee is that if we are to make engineering education based on a concept of global engineering leadership, how do we, through our courses and activities and so forth down the line, meet these four principles? So a person must be caring about people. It must have the skill sets to be able to say that people are important. And the second component is it's just not people, it's everybody. And therefore, you not only become a compassionate leader, but you become a globally compassionate leader. This is what we believe in. Go on. And therefore, what we have done at the University of Tennessee, go ahead, is we have created a different way of thinking. We believe that it is the development and enhancement of culture that provides the greatest probability of achieving the values of an organization that we should work on. That our definition is different. Go on. We believe our paradigm must have, in engineering terms, if you look at it, the hard, the technical things, we must reduce cycle time, we must reduce variation. That's not important. Look at the last one. In my group, you cannot technically enhance something without showing that you either had no negative impact on people or that you had a positive impact on people. That's our paradigm, the way we do things. Go on. And therefore, we have a system of 4 modules and 4 goals that says that I want to be able to define problems in goal 1 so that I can reduce the level of work on individuals. In goal 2, we talk about if I do anything, it must have a great impact. In goal 3, we say we're going to design reliable processes. And in goal 4, after doing everything in goal 1, 2, and 3, which not only impacts productivity, but people, we come back and say, we want to enhance the quality of life. All right, go on. And so we have created a model based on critical problem solving that talks about define, go on, click, solve, and sustain. So everything that we do must be well thought through. So if you tell me a hard problem, I should be able to define that problem. If you say, well, what about immigration? Immigration is a complex issue. I must be able to look at and define that problem. Based on that definition, I must be able to solve it. And then when I solve it, I sustain it because it's not only good for business, but it's also good for the people, and therefore the people will accept it. Go on. So in module 1, we show you how explicitly to find the problem. How do you find the problem when it's difficult, when immigration comes up, healthcare comes up, or difficult manufacturing or a hospital problem comes up? How do we define it? So we show you how to do that. Go on. In module 2, we connect what you do to organizational outcomes. We show you, if you do this, this is what the result is going to be. If you do this, this is what the result is going to be. So people should be able to understand that. In module 3, we develop servant leaders. They solve the problem as a servant leader and not as just a designer of systems. And in module 4, we look and watch this. From an engineering perspective, we look and improve what? Employee motivation, employee engagement, and cultural alignment. And let me talk just briefly about the cultural alignment because we're in Brazil. I do not believe that a design of a system, a design should take over and create a subservient culture. There are a lot of things that are designed everywhere around the world. You take them to another country and you ask them to be implemented, and as if there was no change, no impact. And therefore we say that's where technology says that culture is subservient to us. My belief is opposite of that. That when you design things, it must meet that culture because you have to accept that culture, you have to respect that culture, and you have to provide dignity to that culture. Because if I don't care about the culture and I simply design it in terms of technology, what respect am I showing? And therefore, this is the research that we are doing at the University of Tennessee. This is how we apply these things to industry. This is where we are developed educational programs for the Department of Energy and others, and that we're teaching this. And we are now using this to develop relationship between what Guilherme was telling me, that we currently have about 27 active MOUs with the international universities. And currently, I think we have 3, 4, 5 different projects that are going on. So, go on. Can this work? And I'm not going to take a long time for you. Go on. This was a manufacturing company. Go on. Go on, go on. It's a manufacturing company. Watch this. From a productivity perspective, if you look at the lower line, which is either the orange or the green, we reduce the time that it takes to do the work. So therefore, instead of 7 units a day, they could possibly build 10.5 units. And I believe they're at this from 7 units to 9 units a day. My God, that's millions of dollars. But that's not the important part of this. The important part of it is the next slide. Watch this. Every employee that we touched, we reduce the effort that they make. So how is it possible that we increase the productivity of this company from 7 to 9? We reduce the amount of work every individual does. So if you see, for example, in station 1, they used to take 3,000 steps, close to 3,000 steps per unit that they produced. So multiply that by 7. Now they take 1,300 steps because we put Fitbits on people and we measure them before and after. The retention level was 50%. The retention level is now, Carla was telling me 96% or 97% retention. How is it that people work less, they are more loyal, they are more productive? When I say to you up front, is it possible to align human well-being with productivity? Here is an example that we have. All right, go on. And then Guilherme, you can take him through the rest. So this is, and we have a program that Guilherme is going to share with you in terms of this compassionate leadership that we have in the summer. Because of COVID last year, we canceled it. But this year we have the model again. It is going to be online. And I believe that we had opened up 25 seats in Mexico. And within 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, I don't know what time, it sold out. So Guilherme, all yours.
Bom, vou passar para português, já que a gente está falando no Brasil. A gente tem um programa agora no verão, que a gente chama de Lean Enterprise Systems Program. Ele geralmente acontece presencial, só que devido ao Covid, a gente vai fazer online pela primeira vez. E como que acontece? O programa acontece em 5 semanas e meia, geralmente uma online, 4 aqui no campus, onde a gente tem esse modelo que o Dr Sawhney acabou de apresentar, que é o do Sawhney Model, que a gente chama, dos 4 módulos. Vocês aprendem o modelo durante o curso e aplicam em projetos na vida real em empresas americanas aqui em Knoxville, região. Como vocês não conseguem vir para cá nesse verão que vem, verão nosso, né, julho, a versão online desse ano vai acontecer a primeira semana do dia 21 de junho ao dia 25, algumas gravações onde a gente vai apresentar um pouco sobre a metodologia Lean, para aqueles que ainda não estão familiarizados com ela, e depois as aulas ao vivo com o Dr Sawhney, que vai do dia 28 de junho ao dia 29 de julho. As inscrições já estão abertas, se vocês quiserem mais alguma informação, podem mandar e-mail para esses 2 e-mails aqui no slide ou conversar com o pessoal da PUC também, que eles têm algumas informações. Como que vai acontecer? A gente vai fazer essa introdução para o Lean e o sistema Toyota de produção, vai apresentar o UT Drives Model, que foi a base para o Sawhney Model, e apresentaremos o nosso modelo que a gente vem desenvolvendo no grupo, que é o da Sawhney Model. Geralmente a gente tem as visitas na Toyota, na Amazon e viagens culturais como Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg, Rock City e Dollywood, mas como vai ser virtual, a gente vai ter alguns membros, líderes de empresas locais do leste do Tennessee, principalmente, que vão apresentar para vocês como que a gente aplicou o Sawhney Model nas empresas deles. E aí, então, toda sexta-feira vocês vão ter essa apresentação para entender na prática também como que funciona a aplicação do Sawhney Model. Em paralelo às aulas que vocês vão estar tendo, a gente vai estar passando para vocês um projeto. Vocês serão divididos em grupos com pessoas de todo mundo. A gente já tem pessoas do México, da China, da África do Sul e alguns do Brasil. Vocês vão ser colocados em grupos internacionais, ter esse mix, para trabalhar em um projeto real das empresas daqui. E vocês descobrem o tipo de projeto e a empresa quando vocês estiverem registrados já e tudo mais. Só que então vocês vão ter a oportunidade de passar de fazer um projeto, ter uma aplicação mão na massa mesmo, sobre a metodologia que vocês vão aprender durante o summer. Então, para não alongar muito, eu só quero mostrar um vídeo para vocês sobre o nosso programa, para a gente poder finalizar aqui. E se vocês tiverem alguma outra dúvida em relação a isso, vocês podem mandar um e-mail para a gente e a gente sana a dúvida de vocês, tá bom? Então, só vou passar o vídeo para vocês sobre o nosso programa.
The evolution of society is a story of great change.
Combining our native curiosity with science to create marvels that are big, bold, and brave.
All with one thing in common, to solve problems to make life better for humankind.
We all want to make a difference so we can look in the mirror and sleep well. We want to create a legacy of our lives. This legacy is about leadership that helps your community. Let us help you design systems that become your best friends. Come to our program and we're going to teach you how to design lean systems so that you can become leaders in your society.
I actually didn't have any idea about how Knoxville would be like.
I felt really welcome there, and the university was really beautiful.
I couldn't even believe I was inside a university at all times.
Also, I had the opportunity to go into the stadium.
There's a lot of nature, so one of the weekends we even went up to the mountains and things like that.
It's such an amazing view, and it's a lot closer than you think from the city.
As a foodie, I fell in love with the food.
Once I got there, I had the opportunity to walk around downtown and also Market Square. One of the things that I really liked about there was getting up with the sun sphere.
4th of July, extremely interesting experience. I can't forget, like the fireworks and everything that happened. Beautiful, beautiful, I loved it.
One thing about the Lean program at UT is the experience of diversity.
I never thought I could speak English with someone else.
It's about the people that you meet, like how different they are. They come from different parts of the world, even the teachers.
And now we're good friends and we still keep in touch.
I think it gave me another choice of my future career.
I don't know why, but I actually felt a huge sense of belonging there.
We've worked with over 87 companies in various industries, including government, healthcare, engineering, communications, and many more.
The most important thing that I learned during the Lean program, that you cannot design a system with your mind, but your heart plays an important role.
Industry cannot continue as it has been.
The paradigm must shift.
We must become nimble.
The process must take into account the human factor.
What we learned here is that we must focus on improving people's quality of life.
It was interesting to see all different kinds of industries.
We must create spaces where people can do good work.
With Lean, we allow people to show what they're really capable of.
This program gives you an opportunity to be a leader.
I was surprised how valuable teamwork was.
You will become a leader in business and engineering.
Join us!
Well, I give back to you, Dr. Sawhney, so you can conclude your thoughts.
If there are any questions, you know, I hope that you come to our program, but if you don't, I want you to kind of think through what we talked about. And if there's any questions that we can answer for you, we'd be more than happy to do that.
There are some questions here, Dr. Sawhney. It's in Portuguese, I'm gonna translate for you. So Ellen Maya asked, while I'm not in a leadership role without big power of to influence other people, how can I influence my leader to have this vision?
I think, so is she a student?
Yes.
I think this is a question that was often asked of us. Leadership, first of all, has nothing to do with age. Except when you are young, you may not have the ability or the authority to be able to make decisions. However, you know, when you walk into a company and you start working with a company, they immediately know whether you are a person that they, you know, that carry a weight because you offer a lot. And when you're initially there, my suggestion to you is that you work with your supervisor. So you don't disagree with your supervisor, but the ideas that you have, you propose it to your supervisor. And at that moment in your stage of life, let your supervisor take credit for it. If they want to give you credit, that's fine. But then that happens. And if they propose it and expand upon it, then eventually people are not stupid. They will always know who did it. So there's not a question about that. So I would not worry about it. As a young person going into work, I would have my ideas. I would share them in a nice way. I would share them in a meeting. I would share them with my supervisor. And anytime that you can convince them that this is the right way to think. But you also have to understand that that person is under the issue of productivity. There are a lot of productivity issues that are there. And our model says that you can enhance productivity significantly, but you also have to understand to look at people. So share this with your supervisor, give him or her these ideas, let them help you take it abroad, and over a period of time, you will be recognized as a leader. Any other questions?
Professor Ivanilde, você quer assumir para as perguntas?
Guilherme, se você quiser continuar, acho que tem uma do professor Sandro registrada. Você está vendo aí? Se quiser, eu faço para adiantar.
Pode fazer.
É do professor Sandro Jerônimo. Dear Dr. Sawhney, in your opinion, what are the key elements to a country or society to be more productive?
Could you say that again, Professor?
In your opinion, what are the key elements to a country or society be more productive?
I think that's a very tough question, so I can answer it in a limited way. I have probably gone to maybe 15 countries in Europe. So to say that I know Europe very well, that would be wrong. But this is my assessment of Europe. It all depends from country to country where you go. But one common thing is that if you're working in Europe and you want to get a hold of somebody in the summertime, the chances that you're going to get a hold of that person that is working in that company is going to be very low. I shouldn't say very low, it's low. Because in Europe, for example, a lot of people take vacations, and they don't take vacations like we do in the United States, where, you know, you take 3 days here and 2 days here and 1 day here. They take vacations that could be a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks long. And it is known in Europe, for example, that you know, you are there and you are going to have a vacation and there. The second thing I noticed when I was in Europe was that there is a much larger time given to you to go out and have lunch or spend time outside. That is something different that I saw. The third thing that I noticed about it is that in many cases, they don't have to worry about a lot of things, because in a lot of cases, their education, in a lot of cases, their health, in a lot of cases, their retirements are taken care of, and therefore you have that. So they have an infrastructure fundamentally that allows them to do that. They're encouraged to upkeep their well-being, all right? Both in the sense of vacations and in the sense of everyday life. When I was in Switzerland, I noticed that people would take off. I realized that if you wanted to drink wine, you can actually drink wine, because this was right on the border of France and Switzerland. So there was wine and you can drink wine. So I drank wine the first night and the first day at lunch, and I noticed that not much work was done by me in the afternoon. And then everybody left 3 or 4 o'clock and had some social responsibility. Somebody was a mayor, somebody was on the council, somebody was doing this. Their lives seemed to be more robust. And I compare that to India or to China or to Mexico, all right? And I find, for example, that the number of hours worked, not the productivity, the number of hours worked, do not allow you that robustness in your life. I hope I answered it, but take it with a grain of salt that I'm not an expert on that. It is based on my experiences of what I've seen.
Uma outra pergunta, eu vou fazer um resumo, é uma pergunta grande, mas a que você atribui a associação ainda, a persistência, né, do modelo fordista de produção, que ignora o bem-estar das pessoas e que já está provado que não funciona. Porque ele se mantém, né? E nós sabemos que as pessoas, quando têm o bem-estar, estão diretamente associados com a produtividade no trabalho.
So, Dr. Sawhney, to which you associate the persistence of this kind of Fordist production model?
Can you hear me? I changed it to English translation.
Oh, all right. So you got it. All right.
Professor Eveland, can you repeat so that the translator can translate?
Como você associa, porque você associa a persistência do modelo fordista, né, de produção, que ignora o bem-estar individual, e ele está provado que ele não funciona, né? Por que ele ainda é persistente, né? Porque ele ainda existe. Porque ele continua e a gente sabe que as pessoas com bem-estar estão diretamente, o bem-estar das pessoas está diretamente associado à produção deles no trabalho.
I think anything that exists is because no better alternative has been provided. So if you look at the Ford model, and I'm assuming when you're looking at the Ford model, you're looking at the assembly lines that they're producing. You know, it is that Ford line has been turned into the Toyota line, in which in Ford they used to make one model, and in the same assembly line, Toyota makes many, many models that are there. That's the difference. The question then, when you say, why does it persist? Because we don't know any better. We don't have a solution out there that is proposed that gives us an alternative. And therefore, it persists because it works. It persists because we do not have an alternative. And it persists because in general, I'm speaking, fundamentally, when we look at work, we don't consider people. We talk a lot of people, but we really don't do much about people. There's a lot of talk. So no alternative. And our value systems are one that still says, yeah, people are important, but it is not supported by anything that fundamentally can help us change it. So my answer or my thought at this moment would be, we have no alternatives. And as we present alternatives and we show that these are working, maybe these become alternative solutions.
Mais alguma questão aí, Guilherme? Aqui seriam essas três.
Tem algumas em inglês aqui que eu posso passar para ele já. Dr. Sawhney, I'd like to know how it would be possible to conciliate rationality.
Hear me? I can't hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I'd like to know how it would be possible to conciliate.
I can't hear you.
It's because ele tá na parte de... Ele tá com a tradução em inglês. Então...
Ele tem que mudar a chavinha lá. Colocar no off.
Você vai precisar colocar no off, Dr. Sawhney.
Okay.
There you go. So I would like to know how it would be possible to conciliate rationality and continuous innovation and productivity with humanity and environment preservation and improvement under the logic of engineering and market. Wouldn't we need to put people and coordination mechanisms in the center of the model and systemic view and in our lives? Your proposal do that? I know it's a big question, but...
It's a very complex question and multiple, so I don't know if I remember that. I think the first part that I remember is that the people are the center of our model.
Right.
So that has to be there. But just because we say that people are the center of our model cannot just be enough. But what you have to provide is a roadmap or a platform by which people can actually implement some of this. These are the two things that are coming to my mind. Guilherme, would you, if you want, repeat that if I'm missing something out of this.
All right. That's okay.
All right.
So there's another one. What can I do to improve my core values and therefore my leadership abilities?
How young is this person?
Atílio de Mouro. Se tiver aí, puder mandar. Não sei se você é professor ou aluno. Não...
All right. I'm going to assume, Guilherme, that this is a young person.
All right.
This is a very tough question because it's not so easy what I'm going to say. I notice at the University of Tennessee, people forget their core values and become somebody that they're not. And not everybody, but a lot of students do because they want to fit in. So a student will come from a small town, a student will come from a large town, a student will come from a wealthy family, another student will come from not wealthy family, a student come from this demographics, another student will come, and they forget who they are because they want to fit in. If you're a young person, it takes a lot of guts to be able to say that you are not going to give into peer pressure. Many people become somebody, they act as somebody else when they're in front of people, and at home they're somebody else. And this is not because you're an evil person or a malicious person or anything, because you are in essence trying to fit into society. What does society want from you? At a university, what do you want? What are they asking you? They're asking you to be good looking. They're asking you to be, charming. They're asking me to be athletic. They're asking you to be popular. They're asking you to do these. These are the core values that people are pushing you towards. But what if you're not? Do you have the guts to say, this is who I am, and then build upon your core values? But the first part of all of that is that you have to understand who you are. You have to define for yourself who you are. And if you can't do that, and a lot of people don't, they don't know, they generally know, but if I was to ask them to articulate it, then you have to be able to. So to be conservative or liberal, to be religious or not religious, to whatever you are, you are. Now, on the pictures you saw, for example, for me, I had a turban. I wear a turban. This turban is, I have done it for, my God, almost 40 some years in the United States. All right. The only reason I don't have a turban now is because in the last year or so, I had cancer, and therefore I lost all my hair, and now my hair is starting to grow up again. But it was important for me to identify who I am. Is it easy to wear a turban and a beard in the United States or anywhere? It is not, but that is who I am. And I never forgot about that, and therefore I held to my principles. Not necessarily that I do it all the time, but to the things that were important to me, those are what I did. I did not look at who is popular and who's not popular. This is who I am, and this is what I am going to base my life around. And in the long run, I can tell you that it has served me well. I mean, I go out in Knoxville, and not necessarily every time, but majority of the time when I walk out, because I've had a turban and I work at the university and I do all these things, many people know who you are. And therefore, and if you've done well, you have to be that if you are going to be different, you have to make sure that, and every time that you are out in public, you have to have your best presentation. Presentation means what? I should not be caught stealing. I should not be caught doing things. These are fundamentally principles that tell me that if you are going to wear a turban and beard, and if everybody is going to respect you, that over this long period of time, you have to do the things to the best of your ability that you believe are right. And then it serves you well. But you have to assume them. I wear a turban. You believe in other things. You have to stand up for yourself. You have to understand who you are, and then build who you are, because that's where your strength comes from. The technical things, my God, you can Google them today. And people can take you through, but nobody can teach you your core values. So that is my suggestion. Don't look at popularity. Don't be under pressure. Do things that allow you to live with your principles and build upon your principles once you know what they are. Jeremy, is that okay?
Yep. And Dr. Sawhney, I'm gonna give you 2 more questions, all right? And then we can close the questions. So, Dr. Ruppy, how can we make the balance among people generations in the companies nowadays? It's from Professor Elimar.
Again, to answer something like this is easy. To do it is very hard. Okay. You have to be the role model. If you are at a company, your behavior must be a role model. And you let other people observe who you are and what you do. And let that be the first step in this process of integrating people. But before that, you must ask yourself the question, are people important to you? All right. 2, be the role model. The way you treat people that you have an impact on to the best of your ability doing with that. That doesn't necessarily mean that everything is positive. It can be positive or negative, but you have to hold to your principles. And that is the way I would start.
All right. And the last one. So the global citizenship is something really interesting in our globalized world, actually. Is this approach directly connected with the employee's quality of life in the leadership perspective? How can the engineering improve this relation, as well as the core values for a better productivity without losing the focus on good life?
Again, when I answer these, I feel that I'm not answering them because they're so complicated and I'm just giving a superficial answer. Is global citizenship part of being a leader? Well, if you are living in New York or New Jersey and you have a diversity of people that are working with you, that global citizenship is very important. That's part of your leadership. That's part because those are people that you work with every day. So when you have a diversity of people that are working with you, you have to make sure that that difference between people are not how you make a decision. Now, if you don't, and you work in a more of a homogeneous environment, does global citizenship mean compassion? I think not in that direct way because it's every day. But maybe part of the reason we're presenting today here to Brazil, or we work with a lot of companies, a lot of countries, is because what I have, what my group has, what the University of Tennessee has, it is for the people in the state of Tennessee, but it is also for the nation, but it is also for the global world that we develop things. As a researcher, as a professor, when we look at things, I don't sit down and say that I'm only going to do it for the, for the people in East Tennessee. That's not right. So there are two environments we're talking about, where one in which you have diversity and you have to deal with it every day. But two, if you have a homogeneous environment where most people are alike, you still have to do what you have to do, and you have to spread your word for the well-being of citizens around the world. And here's something I look at. COVID has hit us really bad. But beyond COVID at this moment, do you know that there is a lot of conflict that's going on that is either because of starvation, because of migration, because of conflict? People are being impacted. So for us to say that my engineering solution is not applicable to them is fundamentally wrong, but the other part is for you to get access to those and be able to help them is something different. So that's the answer I have. If you are directly involved, take care of them daily. But if you are not directly involved, you should at least put your stuff out there so that everybody has access to what you're doing. And I believe, to some extent, I believe, speak for the University of Tennessee, that part of the University of Tennessee's mission is to build these international relationships so that we can learn from you, but at the same time, whatever we have, we can share with you.
All right, and just to wrap up, because we're about without time, Dr. Sawhney, it's just a comment, it's not a question. The lecture was very good. Congratulations to Dr. Ruppy. I want to become a leader, but the program being offered by the University of Tennessee doesn't fit my financial conditions. In Brazil, from what I know of the general values of people, I believe that it would be a little difficult to become a great leader, but it's worth the challenge and a great challenge. I would like to try. Even more in the area of engineering together with technology, the famous Industry 4.0. So tell Antolin Diamantino, he just wanted to make this comment.
I think what I can also say is, if it is a financial constraint, there are always options on finding ways to do it. It's not the question that there's a barrier. We can always find options. The question is, do we have enough of motivation and persistence to be able to do it? I sometimes complain that what I find is a certain amount of complacency. We, for example, in our group, if I say that we are going to do this, if it takes us 24 hours to do it, if we have to stay up all night, we are going to do it. We have never said no to anybody because we thought we didn't have time. And, you know, but if we are going to do it and we're going to develop it, there has to be a certain champion that doesn't care about time and doesn't care about effort and all that kind of stuff. And therefore you get it. But if everybody says, oh, I think I am too tired, I have too much on my plate, I have this and that, I think those are sometimes true, but there's also excuses for not doing something that is worthwhile.
All right. Professor Ivanildo, that's it. Thank you, Dr. Sawhney.
Thank you all. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Eu gostaria, em nome da PUC Minas, de agradecer ao professor Dr. Ruppy Sawhney pela brilhante exposição e a disposição de estar conosco para responder às várias questões. E nós vimos que a sua palestra nos instiga muito a pensar, tantos comentários, né, e as perguntas são sempre, né, importantes nessa discussão. Obrigada, muito obrigada por compartilhar conhecimento, né, e esse novo ponto de vista em cima de um sistema produtivo muitas vezes duro, né, muito duro para as pessoas humanas, trabalhadoras, que gostariam de se realizarem no trabalho. Nem sempre isso é possível, né, em nome de uma produção alta. Muito obrigada, muito obrigada. Muito obrigada, Guilherme, por estar aqui conosco até agora, e a todos vocês que nos assistiram, né, e que dividiram esse momento importante da PUC Carreiras. Eu queria avisar aos alunos que respondam ao questionário de avaliação do evento, que está na nossa página, carreiras.pucminas.br, e também na nossa página carreiras.pucminas.br, no blog, e também na plataforma da PUC Carreiras, e vocês, assim que responderem o questionário, serão habilitados para receber o certificado. Boa noite a todos, e até a próxima evento.
Obrigado, professor Vanilde, e todo mundo da organização. Thank you, Dr. Sawhney.
Thank you all. Have a great day and a great evening.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.
Bye.
Muito bom, né, gente?